Next, on Currents News, Judge Amy Coney Barrett is now Justice Barrett, the 6th Catholic to join the Supreme Court. Her lightning speed confirmation, now one for the history books. Then, an emotional and once-in-a-lifetime moment. A new American citizen gets to cast her vote for the very first time. Plus, it's exactly 1 week to Election Day. The candidates crisscrossing the country in key battleground states looking to make their final pitches. And the amazing journey that took one young man from the island of Sicily all the way to the British Isles, all for a great cause. The news starts right now.
Pledge to you and to the American people that I will discharge my duties to the very best of my ability.
Judge Amy Coney Barrett at her swearing-in ceremony at the White House late last night, now the newest Associate Justice on the country's highest court. Good evening, I'm Christine PERSECUTED. After her heavily contested nomination, Amy Coney Barrett has been sworn in to the Supreme Court of the United States days ahead of the 2020 presidential election. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more on the 6th Catholic justice's journey to the court.
I, Amy Coney Barrett, do solemnly swear.
Within 30 days, Amy Coney Barrett was nominated, confirmed, and sworn in to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Defend the Constitution of the United States.
Replacing the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Barrett has solidified a 6-3 conservative majority on the court.
The nomination of Amy Coney Barrett.
Monday night, Democratic senators voted and immediately exited, a final sign of protest against her confirmation.
They voted and then exited the chamber right away. So you have to separate some of the political posturing and theater from the reality.
Barrett is now the 6th Catholic justice on the current court, but has arguably had to defend her faith more fiercely than any of them.
Can you set aside whatever Catholic beliefs you have regarding any issue before you?
I can.
Though her confirmation was sharply criticized by Senate Democrats, she received a majority 52-48 votes, the first justice in 150 years to have no support from the minority party.
Just no support really demonstrates how partisan these are, these hearings have become.
She was pressed about potential future rulings on hot topics like the Affordable Care Act, same-sex marriage, and Roe v. Wade, but ultimately gave no indications how she would rule or her personal feelings on any of the issues, a sentiment she was committed to through her swearing in.
That I will do my job without any fear or favor, and that I will do so independently of both the political branches and of my own preferences. My son, JP, my
During
daughter,
her confirmation,
Emma,
Barrett was frequently challenged on her home life as a wife and mother of 7.
In many ways, I think women in general are held to an unfair standard when it comes to our politics, and the Barrett hearings demonstrated that again.
Justice Barrett's first possible decision could be days away if an election dispute arises. She has declined to commit to recusing herself should it be contested. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
With early voting underway in New York, New Yorkers are coming out in droves. Over 300,000 of them cast their ballots since early voting began just 3 days ago. Take a look at the lines at the Vandalia Senior Center in Brooklyn on Saturday. That's where Currents News' Emily Drewby caught up with one of the Empire State's newest citizens. Simone Henry cast her vote for the very first time after waiting in line for 2.5 hours, but she says it was well worth the wait.
The line to vote stretches 2 city avenues, but under her mask, Simone Henry is still smiling because this is the moment she's been working towards for years.
I'm almost there.
The brand new American citizen finally gets to cast her first vote.
I'm excited because I feel like it's very important, especially for this election.
Over 23 million U.S. immigrants will be able to vote in the 2020 election, about 10% of the national electorate. It's estimated that 3.1 million became naturalized after the 2016 election, making this the first presidential election they're eligible for. Simone is one of them. She came to the U.S. from Jamaica back in 2009 and got her green card in 2016.
From there, I know that I wanted to become a citizen.
The Christian woman relied on Catholic Migration Services' free help throughout the process. Her goal was to vote in the 2020 election to help her family.
I have 3 boys. We are colored, we are minority, we're in a community that, needs funding. The schools need funding.
So she cracked the books and studied hard for her April citizenship test and interview.
How many amendments does the Constitution have?
She was ready, but then the world shut down. Simone was terrified she wouldn't become a citizen in time.
I was very worried. I was very worried because I want to be a part of that group that have a voice, and especially for this election.
It's an issue many immigrants faced. Simone was one of the lucky ones. She got a new date in August and officially became a citizen on September 26th, just in the nick of time.
I feel like I'm going to be a part of a change, a part of, making a decision for my kids' future, for myself, in terms of immigration, in terms of jobs, benefits.
On Saturday, the first day of early voting, Simone exercised her right as an American. A 2.5-hour line, the last leg of her 11-year journey to the polls.
I did it.
Finally getting that I voted sticker, but having her voice heard was the real prize. In East New York, Emily Druby, Currents News.
With Election Day exactly 1 week away, President Trump is making stops in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nebraska today, while Joe Biden is stumping in Georgia with his former boss, Barack Obama, in Florida. John Lawrence reports on the candidates as they make their final pitches to the American people.
The 2020 presidential campaign is entering the home stretch.
Who is going to vote for President Trump?
President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden spent Monday in the battleground state of Pennsylvania.
I just want to make sure we can earn every vote possible.
With 1 week to go until Election Day, more than 60 million people have already cast their ballots nationwide.
I wanted to make sure that there was no delay.
North Carolina, a toss-up state according to national polls, has high voter turnout so far.
It seems like it's more important than years ago.
The COVID-19 pandemic is among the issues dominating the campaign, and the candidates' positions differ greatly.
We have made such strides. It's absolutely an amazing thing what we've done in a period of 7 months.
The bottom line is Donald Trump is the worst possible president, the worst possible person to try to lead us through this pandemic.
Over the next 7 days, Americans will decide whether President Trump gets a second term.
You know, they call it the Great Red Wave, and they're waiting for it.
Or if Joe Biden becomes the next president.
You know that blue wall is has to be reestablished.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
The U.S. government issuing a refund to a program that helps 9/11 first responders. The Treasury Department is giving back close to $4 million that were previously withheld from the FDNY World Trade Center Health Program. The program provides free physical and mental health services to all active and retired firefighters who responded to the 9/11 attacks. The Treasury Department released a statement saying a profound debt of gratitude is owed to those first responders. Extreme weather is plaguing the U.S. with wildfires raging out west, scorching tens of thousands of acres, and Hurricane Zeta hitting the Gulf states. Thousands are evacuating while others are preparing for the impact. Mandy Gaither reports on the areas most at risk.
Our priority right now is getting people evacuated and out of the path of the fire.
More than 100,000 residents are under mandatory evacuations in California as wildfires once again erupt. This time, 2 wildfires are causing destruction in Orange County, the Silverado fire near Irvine and the Blue Ridge fire near Yorba Linda. At least 700 people were battling the fires, and on Monday, 2 of them sustained critical injuries.
One has 65% burns, both second and third degree. The second has 50%, both second and third degree burns. Both are intubated at this time.
High winds and warmer temperatures are helping the fires grow. And along the Gulf Coast, residents there bracing for yet another hurricane. After hitting parts of Mexico Monday, Zeta is expected to make landfall as a Category 1 storm Wednesday evening. That would make Zeta the 5th named storm to hit Louisiana this year, the most ever to hit that state in one season.
We just need to be prepared this year. We've broken a lot of records, not necessarily in a good way, but we just need to be prepared that, hopefully this is the last one, but I said that 3 hurricanes ago.
Hurricane warnings have been issued from Morgan City, Louisiana to the Mississippi-Alabama border. Mandy Gaither, Currents News.
There's a lot more news headed your way. Standing together against Christian persecution, the Vatican continues to give voice to the most vulnerable as COVID surges put them more at risk. Pope Francis is showing solidarity with pilgrims this Christmas season, but coronavirus concerns have him presiding over the ceremonies with only a few of the faithful this year. And he's been making religious vestments for more than half a century. You'll meet the tailor who has a special connection to 3 pontiffs. Stay with us.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Giving a voice to persecuted Christians. That was the goal of an event at the Spanish Embassy to the Holy See in Rome. Among those present, Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal PIETRO PAROLIN, who said initiatives like this make a difference for victims of religious persecution.
We must never lose the hope that through God's grace and our efforts that cooperate with that grace, the mind and heart can change. St. Paul's life and conversion are a wonderful example of how even those who were ardent persecutors of the faith became one of its principal defenders and preachers.
The first guest speaker was Blessing OKOEYEDON, a Nigerian human trafficking survivor. She explained that ethno-religious conflicts increase women's risk of being trafficked by leaving them to fend for themselves when their husbands are killed and their homes destroyed.
I've understood that each of us, women victims of trafficking, always has a similar story. A story full of deceit, betrayal of trust, and exploitation by organized criminals with the goal of making profit at others' expense.
Father MUSSIE ZERAI, an Eritrean priest, shared his experience from 25 years working with refugees forced to flee their homes because of persecution. He said in Eritrea, religious freedom is limited, although the authoritarian government says otherwise because it allows Christians to pray in churches.
However, if you want to talk about justice, or if you start to work with the poor, to talk about the rights of the poor, of young people, you're not allowed to do that.
Father Stephen AZABO, an Iraqi priest from the Nineveh Plains, spoke about the plight of Christians in his parish who have faced a serious wave of violence since 2003, suffering, kidnapping, torture, and death. He remembers very well when in 2014 ISIS invaded Mosul, forcing many people to flee to villages in the Nineveh Plains.
From the beginning, their houses were marked with an Arabic letter N for Nazarene. In other words, the N for Nazarene to indicate Christians. Underneath that, they wrote in Arabic, property of the Islamic State.
The hope is that these testimonies can be yet another step to build a future where all religious groups can coexist in peace. A dire warning from the United Nations. There is a surge in cases of children suffering from severe malnutrition in Yemen. Cases there have risen more than 15% in this year alone. Humanitarian organizations say that 1 in 5 children under the age of 5 in the country needs urgent treatment. The United Nations claims $50 million is urgently needed to scale up nutrition programs in war-torn Yemen. Pope Francis is planning his Christmas celebrations early, but this year the Holy Father might be a bit lonely. The Vatican announcing that the pontiff will preside over Christmas and New Year festivities with only a few pilgrims present. The decision was a precaution due to a recent increase in COVID cases in Italy. On the schedule, Christmas Eve Mass and the Solemnity of the Nativity of the Lord on Christmas Day, both in St. Peter's Basilica. Still to come on Currents News, an 11-year-old boy makes a remarkable 1,700-mile journey to visit his grandma and raises money for a good cause in the process. We'll bring you his inspiring story. And he's been dressing popes for decades. You'll meet the humble tailor who has had a special connection with the Vatican's last 3 pontiffs. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. We all know the nursery rhyme, but one 11-year-old boy in Italy lived it, walking through entire countries to get to his grandma's house. Check it out. Romeo Cox spent his summer walking from Palermo, Sicily to London, England, going through Switzerland and France to get there. He embarked on this journey with his dad because he wanted to see his granny during the pandemic, but that's not the only reason Romeo laced up his sneakers and hit the road. He joins us now from Italy to tell us what inspired this trek. Okay, Romeo, I'm told you started this expedition on June 25th. By that time, travel and lockdown restrictions had been relaxed in Italy. You could have flown to get to your grandmother in London, but you chose to walk. What made you decide to do that?
Well, basically during quarantine, so I hadn't seen my grandma for a year and a half, and we're very close to each other. She used to read me stories, and I really missed her at that time. So when COVID came, I was really upset. So during this quarantine lockdown, I started planning out in secret this trip, this journey. And at the time, I thought there weren't any planes or cars, or you couldn't use fuel and to travel. You had to be in your home. So I decided to do it walking, something without using petrol to also kind of help the climate. So after the end of quarantine, I asked my parents, and they said no. Over 50 times. So it took lots of convincing, and in the end, we had to plan everything out with COVID, be secure, and they managed to say yes.
All right, and I know you raised some money for refugees along the way. Why did you do that, and why is this cause so near and dear to your heart?
Well, when I first came to Palermo, Sicily, I didn't know a word of Italian or anyone. And these migrant boys, these kids from Ghana as well, one special kid, came to me and helped me and talked a bit of English. And he taught me the street of Palermo. He taught me a bit of dialect, because here you have the Sicilian dialect and then just Italian. So when I learned Italian, I made more friends, and they just invited me as if it was my home. So I want to give back by giving them education, because during lockdown I saw many kids didn't get the chance to study online. So with this money we're going to buy some devices to help with online education.
Wow, that is amazing. And the whole journey sounds exhausting. Where did you stay at night when it was time to rest? I hear the Catholic Church opened its doors for you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so in Italy especially, it was very stressful with the weather and the hotness at night. It was just awful with mosquitoes. But we kept getting invitations from convents, churches, and we were really happy that they invited us. So we kept going there, They accommodated us, they gave us food, water, they let us sleep. And inside it was cold, so that was good. They're really helpful, especially throughout France. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, how much money have you raised so far for refugees, and how can people watching at home help out?
Yeah, so we checked this morning, and we've raised up to 18,600.
Wow.
So I'm very grateful for that target. Thank you, everyone.
That is wonderful. Well, Romeo made it to his destination, in case people are wondering at home, 3 months and nearly 1,700 miles later. Romeo Cox, an 11-year-old fundraiser from Sicily. Thank you for sharing your amazing story with us.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to donate to Romeo's cause, go to justgiving.com/fundraising/Romeo's Big Journey. And finally tonight, can you imagine the Pope without his signature white robes? Pontiffs have been wearing white for more than 700 years. But for the last 50 years, popes have been going to one man to make sure their vestments fit just right. Melissa Butts reports from his shop in Rome.
On Borgo Pio, a street parallel to the Vatican, an unassuming store is rich in papal history. It's called Mancinelli Clergy, and it's owned by Raniero Mancinelli. He's been working in tailoring for nearly 6 decades and admits his Salesian formation has been a key part of his work.
Humility and lowering my head when working, that is what I have sought to do. I have been blessed. I started working for a simple priest, and little by little my work reached the Pope. I served 3 popes, and it's a big deal. Many times journalists ask me, now who do you want to clothe? I reply, no one, because after the Pope, there is only God.
While his creations have been used by the last 3 pontiffs, it was with the Pope Emeritus that a friendship took off, back when Joseph Ratzinger was a cardinal.
First, his sister came to me. She was a very humble woman. I was shocked by the humility of this woman. She shyly entered the store and didn't want to bother me. When Benedict was elected, they called me. I went to take his measurements after 2 or 3 days. For me, it was something big.
But he also had a special connection with John Paul II, thanks to a cardinal friend, who was the Pope's right-hand man. He joked saying it was because they ate the same cookies.
My friend didn't say anything. He only invited me to breakfast and then asked me, how was breakfast? I thanked him for the invitation. Then he said, do you know what you are eating? It was a cappuccino and cookies. He told me those are the cookies of His Holiness John Paul II.
Priests, bishops, and cardinals come to his store. He's known for the quality of his products, especially the cassocks he's made by hand since he was young.
I have made cassocks for many priests. Another part is liturgical clothing, which are made with the same quality. Sometimes we work with new machinery instead of making and sewing the cassocks by hand.
Their cassocks, chasubles, mitres, skullcaps, and other liturgical vestments have been used around the world. He currently runs the company near the Vatican with his family.
Bishops and cardinals who come to Rome for any sort of visit or to meet the Pope come here and say, I had to come to say hi. I don't think it's a small gesture. It makes me very happy.
Joy is one fruit of his work since 1962. After 58 years, Raniero Mancinelli says although times have changed, and liturgical vestments too, the best reward is doing quality work, which gives him a great moral reward.
That was Melissa Butts reporting. And in case you're wondering, when asked to describe the vestments of the current Pope, Mr. Mancinelli says Francis's robes are more simple than most pontiffs in the past. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine PERSECUTED. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.